Hi, I'm Z, your local undersea cryptid, here for another video. Today, I will be going over a personal dilemma I've seen as of late within my own personal work along with the newer digital artists on the scene. But before all that, take a dive with me and let's see what we can find in the unknown. Today's video topic will be on the fundamentals of traditional art and how its impact on the current day digital art is important. You might be asking yourself,
But Z, aren't you a digital artist? Why would the topic of traditional art be relevant for you?
and you are right, I am a digital artist, but despite this, I still see the immense amount of importance that has been brought to my work through traditional-based mediums. I mean, when you think about it, without more traditional side of active creating, we wouldn't have a lot of the building blocks of modern-day things. How? Well, let me take you down a bit of art history. Back when, a lot of art used was in the traditional group, with it being pencils, clay, marble, or many of the other materials used, they still had the similar act of needing to use your hands or hand-based tools to create it. Although back then art was held to a different standard than it is today, it still has a lot of similarities to the struggles that's currently going on now. For example, art has been undermined or looked down upon by non-artists, or even just seen as something non-important. With this in mind, artists do have a hidden type of skill that starts with each piece of work. A type of blink and you'll miss it type stuff. Hell, even for seasoned art veterans of today, they might just go over it without any other thought put into it. That being, the basics, shapes, line work, line weight, composition, and so many other instances that artists can just pick up without really realizing it. But this also gives them a better understanding of the world around them, and even on record being more visual types of academic focuses. But how does this all tie into traditional art? Well, traditional art was the reason we have the basics, the first ever building blocks of the creative field. Even if we don't always use this in a way that's stereotypically seen for, there are many ways this applies outside of the creative space, such as building blocks, websites, and even mathematics, all using the same basic creative building blocks that a common day artist uses. Sadly though, and it has been put on record of the value of art over the years has dropped a significant amount. Why? Well, I have to say it is due to the rise in need of a more digital-based formatted creation process. This doesn't mean that digital art is bad. More in the sense, even despite the immense amount of progress and capabilities it has added to the creative process, it still has its heavy downsides, which I and other artists can't ignore. A few pros that came with the digital media are staggering, such as the cheaper price eventually when it comes to these types of creations. In addition, even being able to transport the work done or finished product from different surfaces and devices for most time in a seamless and easy manner. With this in mind, every good has its bad, and with these it can affect overall. Let's use something I've realized lately as an example, the Command Control Z, aka the undo button on most digital programs. Now, you may think it's just something any person could use, especially with artists. No harm in it, right? Well, yes and no. There is no harm in it currently, but even in my own skill set, I've seen it stunt a lot of important confidence factor in my work. That being, line confidence. This is the state of confidence in which an artist has when doing the sketching phase or even the line work phase. Do you ever recall the joke that people say of,
Oh, I have to hit the undo button so many times when I draw one singular line.
that is an act of low line confidence. It's not awful to have, but it can truly stunt the growth within your work. I can go on with the many different things I've found myself or other artists in my field doing that I have combated to get around or get a better hand at handling it. But I will focus on this one for now, with showing what I do to try to build my confidence back up. First, I had to pull away from the shortcuts I used to do. Best way to do that, you may ask? Good old pencil to paper. I wanted to truly trust myself when it came to my structure. I needed to remove the ability to erase or undo. So what did I do? I swapped out that pencil for a pen, using different pen colors even as distinct stages within the drawing process. This was extremely helpful to build the assorted color coordination that I could take even to my digital work. I will say, even with this method, I still struggle at times with my line work, but I have seen a significant build in confidence when it comes to my work. I wanted to note this because I still struggle even when doing this exercise, but I still see growth even with my process being sped up a bunch. Now, will this work for everyone? No, absolutely not. We all learn and grow at different speeds and styles. Even though this might not work for some, it worked for me, and I hope it helped people within a similar stunt. With that in mind, I'd like to use this section to go over how traditional art has aided me in my own artistic journey, especially in my younger years. While I grew up, I always used traditional art to express myself, my ideas, and even show or process my emotions. It's also just been the way I see the world itself. It was and still is my eyes. I hold this medium near and dear to my heart, and I honestly know without it, I wouldn't be the artist I am today and have something I can fall back on even when digital art doesn't reach the mark. But maybe my words might not be a helpful representation of how impactful traditional art can be. So, I've gathered a few of my art friends and asked them the same question. Have you used traditional art, and has it changed you in your current art journey? This is what they had to say. Hi, hello, my name's Z, here with a interview with my friend Zam. This is Zam.
Hi.
Zam has been my friend for a while, and I've called them here to do an interview on the question of the topic previously stated in the video. Zam, why don't you introduce yourself, what art you do, how long you've been doing it, and also the answer to the question?
I'm Sam. I'm kind of a freelance artist, but I'm a computer science major.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing art since I was 5,
Uh-huh.
and I'm 20 now, so that's a little bit of a time perspective. It's been 15 years of growing and changing.
Mm-hmm.
I've primarily work in digital art nowadays, but it's more of like a hybrid system that I use.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what I do is I do all of my sketches and whatnot on paper,
Yeah.
and then transfer it over to do digital art.
Mm-hmm.
For that to even work, I have been almost primarily doing traditional art for about a decade.
Oh my god.
And improving on that front, first and foremost.
Okay, and the question I have to ask you today is, have you used traditional art, as you clearly state you have, and has it changed you in your current art journey? Like, can you go more in depth about that?
It's been the biggest facet for me because most of my art journey has been trying to figure out everything just through hand in any way that I have readily available to me.
Mm-hmm.
Started with just, scribbling and whatnot with stencils and like printer paper to like making bookmarks in elementary school to give out to people, and just continuing onwards to like go multimedia. It got me my foundations in color theory and working with color overall.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my digital art still carries over the painteresque shading that I use. I rarely in my traditional art ever actually used color
Mm-hmm.
until very late into it. It usually just be like a little splash or something
Okay.
to add on to it.
Uh,
It's such like a
Mhm.
limited format of media most of the time because you're trying to conserve the resources that you have on hand and make the most of them. So you have to learn to work with what you have. I didn't have a lot of art supplies growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of like making do with what you got and figuring it out from there.
Gotcha.
It just makes you like a lot more resourceful, well, at least in my aspect, when it came to like moving over to digital art and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to learn. I was just forced to learn to work with what I had.
Uh-huh.
So having all these tools in front of me, I just have a lot of more ways of actively utilizing them to their fullest. But there's still a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big learning curve.
Big learning curve. I fully agree on that. And you've seen how I've used traditional with my own work. And yeah, it's a big learning curve.
Mhm.
If there is anything else you would like to say, like any like things that you would add to like how you feel about the traditional art today, or even like newer artists that are getting into digital work, what would you say? Like, do you have anything to say about that?
I think most artists should start traditionally
Oh, I also agree on that.
because it there's so much like less room for error traditionally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you have to just put yourself on a plate to improve a lot better faster. Because even if you're using a pencil and you can get rid of your mistakes with an eraser,
Mhm.
there's still like that permanent like little smudge that you always see where your previous thing was, and you have to like, learn to control your like how much pressure you put on something, which is if you're doing something digitally, that's also important because a lot of programs have the technology for pressure sensitivity, so it really helps you out in that aspect. I mean, you can really get your fundamentals down a lot easier, at least for like anatomy and whatnot, through doing traditional art
Mhm.
because of how much you have to adapt to getting it right, and then just like an easy way to see your mistake instead of with digital art, mess up, oh go back, mess up, go back. You actively see your progress.
So it's more like I've said this before previously in the video, how digital art is relatively easier and it really stunts people's growth because it's like you have that kind of easy undo button. Would you agree? Like, it's digital art is in a sense easier.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily easier. While there are aspects of it that make it easier, it is in of itself an entirely different medium.
True.
There are like, you know, quote unquote undo buttons in the real world with regular art.
Mhm.
Like for example, if you mess up when you're painting,
Yeah.
you can go back over that with another coat
Mhm.
and start again. It's a lot more taxing on you to do that, but still a lot of mistakes that you can just cover back up.
Got it.
There's it really is just an entirely different tool set because when I first switched to digital art, I had a lot of difficulty with it
Mhm.
because like yeah, you have access to all of the tools you would need to get all of the colors and lines you want, but you have to learn how to use them properly. It's like if you were to switch from acrylics to oils, it's an entirely different format. It's an entirely different medium, even if they're both paints.
True. No, I agree. I can see it. Well, if do you have anything else to say before we end this interview here?
Artists should not be afraid to use references. It is not cheating. Please get that out of your head.
That is the word of
You do not
Zan.
have to draw the mind horse.
The mind horse.
For reference, for those who don't know, the mind horse is essentially drawing a horse from memory.
And it turns out a little cursed. We'll
Some people it does.
we'll put like an image of a mind horse like right there. We'll just put it on the screen.
You'll
Draw me a
Z
mind
will,
horse.
I'll make a mind horse, and Z will draw a mind horse, and they will be on screen.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it on screen
These
now.
are the mind horses.
These are the mind horses. They're very
Say
beautiful.
hi to the mind horses.
Oh my god. But
It's looking at me funny.
Oh my god. But thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this interview. I appreciate. Uh, Other than that, I think that's the end of our interview. Do you have anything else to say?
I reference Z's art sometimes for anatomy.
Yeah, you do that. Okay.
That's it.
That's it. Okay, second interview. This is my friend, and I've called for them today to answer the similar question that was said in the other interview. Hello.
Hello.
Can you give yourself a brief introduction, what you do for artistic work, and how long you've been doing it?
Well, I'm Sailor Starbones. I am a mostly illustration, but I also do animations.
Mhm.
I have technically been doing art for 24 years, but I've been doing digital for about 14.
That's a really long time.
Yeah.
And today I have come to ask you the question that was previously stated in the previously in the video. Have you used traditional art, and has it changed you in your current art journey?
I've technically always used traditional art. I guess like it's helped with Mostly growth and a lot of practice in like figuring out how I want things to look before I do a digital space. But then there's also times when it comes to like things like painting.
Yeah.
I don't do it often, but like there's a quality to paint that makes it slightly more there than what you can get with digital sometimes. So I guess it's gives me the ability to express things physically as well.
Got it. And is there anything like you would say like to like any other artists that you feel like has been like, I guess, a kind of a conflict of like newer artists today, like newer digital artists or like newer traditional artists, like if there's any like thing you could give them as like
I'd
advice?
say
Mhm.
my best advice is that though the response of practice helps,
Mhm.
is very obnoxious to hear. I hated hearing it when I was younger, but it's that case of practice does help, and finding things that help you figure out where you want to go also helps. Like, I still use references for majority of what I'm drawing, even if it's something that I've drawn hundreds of times, and my brain just goes, you know what, a reference would be nice. And it's okay to feel like instead of taking steps forward, you're taking steps back, because that is a part of the journey.
Yeah.
And all you really need to know is that you're never going to stay at the bottom of the hill. You're always going to manage to get back up.
Those are words to live by. Those are good words. Okay.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. Well, what an amazing set of answers, and I hope this gives a clear insight of how traditional art has affected many different people. Digital art might be this current age's main lead for making art, but we can't forget the past mediums that helped us get to this point in art history. But I'd love to hear what you think. Tell me your thoughts, opinions, or concerns. Do you have a similar experience? Or do you have a method that aided you that you would like to share? Please tell me in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed your time down here and hope you have a safe swim back up to the surface. Bye bye now.